Yo guys, Matt from Upslun Mining coming back at you with another video. So I have a question for you guys. How bullish are you on Ethereum Classic long term? Now I'm not talking how bullish are you on Ethereum right now or Ethereum Classic right now or the next 6 months. I'm saying how bullish are you on Ethereum in 2031? Between now and 2031. Do you think Ethereum Classic is going to stagnate and drop to zero and be worth nothing? Do you think it's going to stay at its current value and just stay there, at 1576? Or is it going to go up? In fact, if you look at the entire history of Ethereum Classic, we only started recording back in 2016. So it hasn't even been that long since Ethereum Classic's been a thing. Even like we're talking, what, 6 years now? And in the course of 6 years, we managed to have a few different spikes. Obviously, we had obviously it looked like a bull run back in 2017 up to $42. Was that $42? Holy smokes, $42 in 2017, a mere year after we started recording at a coin value at that point. And then we had another spike, obviously, last year, which everyone knows about, the bull run in 2021, where basically it was worth significantly more than it is now. I think we're up to like, oh, what was it? Let's just take a look here, just for completion purposes. So we were at, let's go here. What is that? $38. Okay, so $38. 44. Oh, it's more than that. Look how high that spike is. What is that? 44, and holy smokes, it did hit $130. Okay, so it's a lot. All right. Okay, so that's essentially in just 6 years. Okay, so how bullish are you at Ethereum Classic in the next 9 years? I'm asking that question. Like, think long term. Put your short term thinking away for a second and just sort of try to think. Okay, 9 years. 9 years. Okay, what do you think it's going to do? Do you think it's going to go back up to at least 44? Do you think it'll hit 109, 135? What do you think it could go higher? I mean, I guess it could become a failed project and become absolutely worthless, but it could also return back to its former glory along with all the other cryptos and even go higher. So I guess it really depends on, can you imagine the future being brighter for Ethereum Classic? And since everyone's going to be going on Ethereum Classic, more specifically the ASICs, especially once Ethereum goes proof of stake, is it going to be much harder to get your hands on Ethereum Classic when that happens? And will the value of Ethereum Classic go up when the merge happens even, right? So these are some interesting questions, and because of all these questions, I've been really thinking a lot about, like, for my own mining operations, what am I going to do after Ethereum goes proof of stake? And I think most of us are going to look at the most profitable coin. There's lots of talks about Ergo and Flux. I'm even mining those coins right now, actually. But I think Ethereum Classic does stand a chance at becoming the next proof of work Ethereum, if that makes any sense. Especially if they remain loyal to the miners and they maintain network security and the rewards don't drop too much and they get a lot of people investing in the coin itself. I'm personally holding all the Ethereum Classic I have because it's nowhere near. I'm holding all the coins actually right now because they're nowhere near where they're going to be, I think, in the future, regardless of how much doom and gloom you might see right now in the news and whatnot. So let's take a look here. Why am I even making a video? Why am I even yapping around about Ethereum Classic at all? Because why am I talking about it? I'm talking about it because there's been a slew of new videos recently by a lot of other content creators on various Ethereum Classics type of miners, right? So let's just look at iPolo. Okay, iPolo is a big one that's been coming out. I mean, we got a bunch of various videos from Rapid Mining last couple weeks, even on the Jazz Miner and the iPolo Classic. We have videos from this Jimmy is promo. He's got crazy hair, that dude. Boss Coin. I'm not sure if recently though. There's been even like a lot of the other mainstream miners like Chump Change and there's another Rapid one, have been being sent these units, right, to test and to create videos on them. Here's another one here from this Tech Hustler. Um, and yeah, and there's a lot more too. I've even Red Panda mining, right? There's talking about that as well. Now, here's another one. So, what's the point of this video? Okay, so I want to actually create a comparative analysis between, I guess, the common ones. And I'm going to focus essentially on 6 different miners. Okay, so first thing, I'm just going to go through them. We're going to go through the iPolos, and then we're going to go through the Jazz miner variations, because I find those are the most prominent ones being kind of marketed right now and kind of wanting to be pushed out to the different miners. And I kind of want to put together something for whether you think it's worthwhile, because it's been a big question for me, right? As you guys may or may not know, I did purchase a Jazz miner a few weeks back, and I am constantly trying to figure out whether or not this was a good move or it was a bad move, and if the profitability long term and the outlook long term is good. Because I'm not looking at this as something I'm going to ROI on in a year or two. I want to look at this in terms of I'm going to take the hits now. I'm going to put down the investment now. I'm going to pay off that investment with my own money, right? So I'm going to pay off the cost of the hardware. I'm going to expense it all through my business. You could do it however you want. Pay it off with your paycheck or whatever. But I'm just trying to think, okay, so if I bought it now and I mine this thing to the absolute maximum time that it can be mined based off of the DAG, pretty much the DAG is where you're going to get hit. The DAG and difficulty on the hash on the network, right? So I'm just going to actually do another search here. So we're going to pull up 2 different charts as well here from 2 miners. They have great charts here on the hash rate and the difficulty. So we're just going to look for the year right now on the difficulty of Ethereum Classic. So obviously they're very correlated, right? As the hash rate goes up, so does the difficulty, right? More people on it, the less rewards distributed to everyone. That's just how it works with these proof of work projects. So right now we're at 21.61 classic hash rate, and we were much higher obviously in April and earlier, right? So if you look over here at the difficulty obviously correlated directly with the directly with the hash rate. So as the hash rate went up, so did the network difficulty back in April, but now we're dropping back down, and this is probably a lot of it in due part to the crash of the network as of late, right? So if you look at the 1 year year-to-date analysis of this, like everything's correlated back. If you look here, we're talking about end of March, where the value of Ethereum Classic was pretty much at the high, right? And if we look over here, when it was highest here, this is where we had a spike as well in the difficulty, so which is the related hash rate. So essentially, as profitability increased for Ethereum Classic during this time here, everyone went on to mine it, right? Because they used the tool like what to mine, and it basically told them, okay, go to Ethereum Classic because it's most profitable right now. And you can see that in the charts. And as it's dropped down, we do see a dip down here, where it did dip down here to a low point down in mid May, looks like it, and then it recovered, and now it's dropped down again where it is now. These are also correlated in the same sense. So if we look here, we can see the dip here, which is correlated mid-May. We have an increase here and then another drop here. So if you look closely at the value of the coin itself, there's a direct correlation with the amount of people moving their hash rate over to that coin, as well as the difficulty. So that's just how it works, right? So like, it's just more people kind of fighting for the rewards, the less that you can hand out, right? It's like a food truck that hands out maybe, like 10 hamburgers an hour, right? Or let's say it hands out 10 hamburgers every 10 minutes, right? It's a hamburger a minute, right? If you have one person coming every minute, they get a full hamburger now. If you get 2 people coming for every minute, now you got to split that hamburger in half. You got 4 people, you got to split it by 4, and so forth. Think of it as like a food truck that's handing out food, and it's a set amount of food on a certain schedule, right? You go there, there's a huge, if everyone from the city goes and starts, ravaging that food truck, you're gonna get maybe a bite of a hamburger if you're lucky, or even just like a little tiny morsel of the hamburger, right? So it's kind of like, that's how I kind of like to think about how this kind of works, right? So let's talk about some of these miners. So the iPolo miner, V1 Classic, Ethereum Classic, which seems like a good miner. It's running 130 mega hash, and it's got decent hash rate here. So 130 mega hash at 104 watts. It's pretty good, and it looks like it's 0.8 joules per mega hash when it comes to energy efficiency. But we are limited on this miner as well. Here we are limited by the VRAM, which is 3.6 gigabytes. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because this VRAM has to be loaded with a DAG file before it starts mining, right? If the DAG file is too big, it can't load it all into the memory. Therefore, the miner can't mine that coin anymore because it can't load the DAG file. So that's a limiting factor here. Now, if we take a look over here at the DAG size calculator, I will put this link in the description, but you can actually estimate what size the DAG is going to be in a specific dates, right? So for Ethereum Classic, if we put in a 3.6 gigabyte DAG file, that gives us in 29th of April 2024, which is just under 2 years of mineable time, which isn't much, right? Which isn't much. Which is partly why they're trying to throw these onto the market and trying to get people to buy them really fast, right? My personal opinion is it's not worthwhile buying some of these 3.6 gigabytes just because you only have 2 years, right? It's not enough time to reap your benefit, but they're cheaper. So it's like, what camp are you in? You want to put more money in now and for long-term reward, or you just kind of want to get a quick turnaround and profit now by putting less in now? I'm always in the camp where I rather put huge amounts of investment in up front and then slowly wait over time to reap the benefits of that. So we're going to be reviewing these 6 here. So the iPolo V1 Mini Classic Ethereum Classic. We're going to also be looking at the iPolo V1 Mini Classic Plus, which gets pretty much almost, so what is that, 280 versus 130, so over double the hash rate at around, 104 to, yeah, so at more power consumption, but it doesn't really scale as good. But we're going to review that one. And we're going to also review the iPolo V1 Mini, this golden one here, which is the V1. Supposedly this can do Ethereum and Ethereum Classic according to this picture here. And I am not offering any recommendations on buying this. I'm not a financial advisor. Remember what I said. This is not financial advice. Okay, and then we're going to look at the Jazz miners. We're going to start here at the Jazz Miner X4 ETC hash brick. Okay. And then we're going to look at the X4 1U, which is the one I purchased, which has been dropping in price steadily, and I'm actually keeping an eye on that. I want that to drop a little bit lower, and I might buy it depending on how the numbers work out. Okay, so let's take, and there's actually one more I want to look at here as well, which is the one that's not actually released yet, which is the X4-Q, which is pretty interesting as well. It's a quiet miner. I guess it does passive cooling of some sort, but essentially it is double what this is. Not really, it's not double the price, but it's double the hash at double the wattage. So same levels of efficiency. So let's head on over to the spreadsheet and let's take a look here and let's see if there's any recommendations I can make or just kind of my thoughts about this, right? So the iPolo Mini Classic goes at 3.6 gigabytes at RAM. Same with the iPolo Mini Classic Plus, 3.6 gigabytes. I put in the wattage here and the profit per day, right? And I also put in the DAG file limit, right? So basically, you will be able to mine on this till 2024, April 29, okay? Which gives you 671 days. Now, if we take a look at both of these iPolo Mini Classics here, you're looking at a possible 18% return on your investment, which means you're going to pay back the cost of the miner plus 18%, and this will be 24% for the Classic. That is if the price of Ethereum Classic remains where it is now, which is around $15, right? If it drops in half, you risk not breaking even. If it doubles, you can make twice as much. So this is kind of where you need to kind of figure out what your risk tolerance is and what your time frame is, right? So if you take a look at these, we're looking at a profit of $221.99 on the Classic and $359.95 on the Classic Plus, which are directly related to 24.3% profit on the Classic and the Plus giving an 18.41% potential profit. So you're looking at more profit, but the percent-wise for what you're spending is actually better on the Classic. Now, my first assumption, my first inclination to say is I wouldn't buy these if I were you. First off, Ethereum Classic goes up and down with the times. Okay, so let me just explain what I mean real quickly here. So if this goes up and down with the times, right, 2 years might not be enough time for the Ethereum Classic coin to reach a level where the profitability could be as much as you want. I mean, you could mine a certain number of coin and then hold on to those coins, but you won't be able to continue mining with that same device. So if you're mining and at that point in 2 years from now, you're actually at a loss because the coin value dropped for some reason, you might as well put that thing behind the door as a doorstop and save those coins and pray that whatever you did mine will go up in value. Otherwise, I don't think it's a good investment just because you can only mine for 671 days. It's just not enough time. Like, I know it's cheap, guys. I know you're paying $900 Canadian, right, for that mini, and maybe 2,000 for the Mini Classic Plus. I know it's not costing a lot of money, but look at the look at how much you are handicapped by that. Okay, like you can only mine 671 days, but it's not worth being cheap up front. It's like pouring cheap cement under your house and your foundation because you're saving $1,000 or something, right? And then cracks start showing up in that foundation over years and years and years because you didn't put in the you don't want to spend the proper amount of money, or putting a cheap roof on your house, right? You spend half the amount of money and your roof starts falling off a couple years later. It's just not worth it's just not worth it to me. I mean, to be cheap. Yeah, I mean, it's just same thing as anything. Like if you want to be cheap, you're gonna get cheap shit. I mean, go to the dollar store. If you're gonna buy a bunch of utensils from the dollar store, great, they're gonna work now, but don't expect them to work long term, right? So if you look at the iPolo V1, this one is a much better proposition, and this is actually the best proposition on the whole list, and I'm going to get into that in a second. You got 6 gigabytes of memory on this bad boy, running at 240 watts, hash rate of 300, which isn't as good as the Jazz miner, okay? So up front, it's less efficient, so 240 watts versus 520, and so these two are the two top contenders. I'll just highlight them. These are the two top contenders, which I would recommend. I'll just jump to the chase on that one. The profit for the day in Apple V1 is 390, so it's not that much bigger than the Classic Plus, really, if you think about it. But look at the DAG file size. We have 3,409 days remaining, okay? At the cost of $3,900 Canadian, we're looking at a revenue potential of $13,295. That's at current today's profit. That's if your electricity rates. So we're assuming an electric rate of around 12 cents Canadian. Okay, so we're going to say 12 per kilowatt hour. Like that, okay? We're assuming your electric rate remains the same, and we're assuming it stays at 15 or goes up, right? We're going to assume Ethereum Classic goes up. You're looking at a revenue potential of $13,295, right? And a profit of $9,385.10. So as it costs you about $3,900 to buy that thing, you're going to make $12,295 back by 2031, and you're going to profit by make almost $10,000, so $9,385, and that's 240% profit. That's at current today's prices, right? Let's say your rewards are cut in half. Let's say you make actually half that. You're actually now still at $4,000. If it goes by even it drops by a tenth of that, you're still going to be ahead. It looks like by $900. So I still think this is a really good bet here versus all the other ones. We're looking at a 240% return. Okay, so you're going to make back the cost of the iPolo Mini. Not only that, but you're going to make a 240% return on profit on that specific miner. Now we're going to look at the other ones. We're going to Jazz Finder 4x4 brick, which is 5 gigabytes. So all the Jazz miners have 5 gigabytes, which gives you basically until 2028, September 28, to mine, right, based off of the DAG file limit. And that gives us 2,284 days, which is quite a bit of time, right? So you're not going to do that bad no matter what Jazz miner you get, I don't think. But the worst one obviously is the brick, and it's only $8.99 to buy this thing, but the US, so it comes $11.57 Canadian. If you run this till 2028, so the next 6 years, you could profit by $967.09 at current market value price for Ethereum Classic today, and you're going to make an 83.58% profit. So you'll make back the cost of the miner plus 83% of the original purchase price, which isn't too bad if you want to spend $899 and you want to go on low risk, right? The X41U, which is the one I have now, runs at 240 watts, 520. So this is the most efficient out of all, and this is the absolute most efficient. But we got to look at more than just the efficiency when it comes to long-term profitability of these ASICs. So the days are 2284, right? So the cost right now to get this shipped to me is around 7,075 Canadian dollars, right? Which isn't necessarily cheap. But we can make a revenue of possibly $17,000 by 2028 until this thing becomes a doorstop, which gives us a profit of $10,000 at 141.44% profitability. Okay, this unit here hasn't released yet. This is the X4Q, which is also 5 gigabytes. But I mean, if you look at the same number of metrics, the same days left, we're looking at a cost of around 13 grand Canadian for this guy. You're looking at a revenue of $33,803 by 2028 with current today's price. So it stays at $15 and your electrical rate stays the same. So I'm just going to put that in here. So we're going to make these assumptions. So it's basically 15 USD Ethereum Classic, okay? So these are like the constants. These are gonna be like, okay, these are the assumptions for this test. the fixed variables, I guess, if you will, or the control variables, I guess. Okay, so we could profit by $10,000 on that bad boy and make around 141.44% profit over what you paid for the unit. Sorry, 162. We're on this one, 162.67. So I was really considering buying more of these X41Us due to the extreme efficiency, because I personally have a power limit on my house. I don't have a lot of power here. I literally can't expand more in terms of power. So I'm not really buying more GPUs because I'm not getting a lot of bang for buck when it comes to hash rate, even though I might pay less to get those GPUs. I'm thinking more in terms of like these ASICs, these Ethereum Classic ASICs, just because you can get more bang for buck when it comes to hash rate. But if you take a look at like the comparative analysis, if you're going to buy a Ethereum Classic miner, I'd probably at this point, as long as this V1 can mine Ethereum Classic, I don't know if that's 100% confirmed yet, this ingredient here is probably the best bet. Because it does say mini ETH miner, mining ET hash algorithm maximum hash rate of 300 megahash. So the problem with this one is it says Ethereum Classic here, like in the picture here, but I did see somewhere that this might not be able to mine Ethereum Classic. Now, if this thing can mine Ethereum Classic at the same efficiency, this is the best one. So I'm not going to buy anything like this until I find out like if this is even will this even mine Ethereum Classic, because it has to mine ETC hash, and right now it's not saying it's mining ETC hash anywhere or in here, right? If we go check out the Apollo.com website as well, let's check out if there's more information there on the Apollo on this one here. So this one here, let's look up this one. This one is saying Ethereum only here as well, right? So we got a 6 gigabyte limit, but only Ethereum. So you're really pulling the risk on this thing if firmware isn't upgradable to the ETC. If it is upgraded to ETC, this is the best long-term choice for it, because it gives you 240% profit over the next 3,409 days if you have the patience to wait. And that's if Ethereum Classic doesn't go up in value. If Ethereum Classic, say 10x's, which would basically put it back to its highest point around 150, you're looking at about a $90,000 profit on just this guy if you can just wait the next 9 years. So anyways, guys, I'm kind of leave it at there. Let me know what you thought about this analysis, if it was if I thought I missed anything on it, or if you thought that I could have made it better in any way. Are you looking at buying any Ethereum Classic ASICs yourself, or are you buying any other sort of ASICs, mini Doge miners or Cardano miners or whatnot? I'd like to hear about it below. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.